we have Chandra Sekhar Sinha, a very eminent person for carbon. He's the global lead for carbon markets in World Bank.
Thank you, Sangeeta ji, and thanks for the invitation to be on the panel. Our effort at the World Bank linked to reducing methane emission from rice cultivation, I think, recognizes the points that earlier panelists have spoken about. In particular, Simon talked about the impact of agriculture on climate change and the impact of climate change on agriculture, and the fact that in the agriculture sector, particularly through regenerative agricultural practices, you have mitigation with resilience co-benefit or resilience with mitigation co-benefit. It could be either way. And over the last decade or so, we've focused primarily on looking at mitigation opportunities in the energy sector. And broadly, the understanding is that we now know how to deal with the energy sector and how we could design programs on emission reductions in the energy sector. There are still challenges, not to say that there are no challenges. We are looking at energy access as our key challenge in the energy sector, but in the agriculture sector, regenerative agriculture is going to be the next challenge in terms of the years to come. The World Bank typically has about $5 to $7 billion of lending every year, new commitment every year on agriculture. Much of it is on regenerative agriculture. Now, in order to scale the interventions in the agriculture sector in a transparent, trackable, monitorable, verifiable way, we need to build platforms or at least visualize the need for a platform right from the beginning. Most intervention programs in the agriculture sector rely on farmer onboarding platforms. Most of them rely on a payment stack for providing input support or subsidy support or any kind of a support that is needed. What is additionally needed in the case of mitigation activity is to integrate a carbon management platform looking at many of the aspects that have been described by Suhasji and by Nagana. But it needs to be done in a way that allows that platform to get linked to the registry systems, to the transaction platforms, and linked back through the payment system so that payments are transferred directly back to the farmers as well. Because it will be extremely important to have transparent benefit sharing with the farmer partners that are signing off for behavioral change or shifting their cultivation practice, and that it must be fair and transparent as to what the support that is being provided, including I saw in Swasithji's presentation, ensuring that the farmers are de-risked for any changes in terms of ensuring that productivity levels are maintained, and only then can you have the kind of retention of 90% that Nagana was talking about, right? So I think it is critical to think in terms of end-to-end digital systems that are linked to each other and then complete the overall cycle of payments going back to the participating farmers through the system that was used to onboard them. The value proposition from the way we are looking at it is in the carbon management platform. That the carbon management platform must have the ability to define the methodology, currently the gold standard one in my mind, then have a clear monitoring, reporting, verification of the kind that you've been talking about, 120 data fields in every plot, which is consistent with sampling approaches and so on, and must provide access to validators to ensure project design is validated well, validators have a regulatory role in the carbon cycle. And thereafter, once measures are, once practice change has occurred, must provide similar access to verifiers to ensure that all of the information has the kind of quality assurance process that you are putting into the design process. And finally, must also have the ability to provide access to regulators to ensure that procedures are being followed. Now, those regulators in the voluntary market are certainly the program standards, gold standard, for instance, if you use their methodology, but may also be host countries. More and more host countries are requiring, even for voluntary type activities, to have the ability to provide no objection or acknowledgement, as we call it, if they're not providing authorization for corresponding adjustment. And these systems must be linked to databases or registries so that the issuance from the program manager, the program standard manager, gold standard, for instance, flows into the overall system, and based on the issuances, payments go back to farmers in addition to those who manage platforms. So the critical element of this is the specification of the platform itself, and a very important feature which we will require in our engagement would be an open access to the platform, that it cannot be a black box, it cannot be a platform that is available only to a select few partners, or select few intermediaries, or select few farmer producer organizations, whatever it may be. That the idea of a multilateral institution is to create overall approaches which allow the scale up of regenerative agricultural practices, or methane reduction in this instance. So I think that element needs to be kept in mind, number one. Number two, that the business model of the platform must be very transparent. So for instance, we look for ways by which the participant in the process, the aggregator, provides for, say, access fees to the platform and builds in provisions for automatic transfer of at least 50%. As an example, in projects that we are looking at, 50% of the payment for carbon goes straight to the farmer. Additional 20-30% in-kind contribution, and then certain amount for management of the platform. So I'm just talking, giving you a sense of the way a multilateral would look to the approach that we would follow in order to scale up intervention for regenerative practices. I'm happy to answer questions, but